Hello viewers, good evening to each and every one of you. I'm Ron Grant and you're watching us straight out of Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. It is an honor and privilege as always to bring you the latest happenings. Earlier today we heard from the Honorable Health Minister on the state of health as it pertains to COVID-19 and beyond in the territory. This evening I am pleased to be joined by the Honorable Minister for Labor and Immigration, the Honorable Vincent Wheatley. He's also the 9th District Representative. He's going to update us on the state of labor and immigration here in the territory of the Virgin Islands. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 Media.
Live stream cable TV is here with CCT Live. Access over 80 channels that you can watch either at home or when you're on the go. And don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Rewind and watch in your own time. Come to CCT today and ask about our 1-month free trial offer. CCT Live. Bring it home.
Viewers, welcome back and thank you so much for sticking with us. As promised, I'm joined by the Labor Minister in the Virgin Islands, the Honorable Vincent Wheatley, who's also the 9th District Representative. Honorable Wheatley, good day, good evening, of course. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to 284 Media.
Good day to you too. It's always a pleasure to be on 284 Media.
Absolutely. Now we're going to get right into it. The state of labor and immigration, of course, has been undergoing quite a number of changes since you're taking up office. Recently, you would have mentioned some statements, which we're going to get into, those through the renaming, of course, and rebranding exercise. And most recently on a talk show, you said, and I quote, "We must give our people a fighting chance in their own country." And I make no apology absolutely for saying that. You continued by saying, "I always say that we must stand by our people to make sure that they get every advantage to make a living in their own country." Now, what it is, I want to begin by asking you, what exactly are currently some of the programs being hosted at the Labor Department to ensure that this, your request, is happening?
Well, Ron, let me begin by first saying that the BVI as a territory remains an incredibly attractive place to live, to visit, to work, and to invest. When you have that specific set of attributes, you will attract persons to your shore who want to take advantage of any one of those particular things there. Well, at BVI, we have found ourselves just there. But the question we have to ask ourselves, how do we handle this situation and where do we go from here? We have at least 121 different nationalities living within our shores at this moment. And that too brings its challenges. We've had to actually rethink the whole labor and immigration or policies and the way we carry out our business, because these two things, your labor force and your immigration policies, do affect how the country looks and feels. The whole flavor of the country, if we get it wrong or if we get it a particular way, can go awry. So at the Department of Labor and Workforce Development and Immigration, we've tried to do some reform in both those areas. I think the newest talk we see now, where we try to move the work permits from the paper system to go online. And of course, you hear all of the talk in the media. Ron, the truth of the matter is this. You don't plant a seed today and reap a harvest tomorrow. The government over the last few months have planted a lot of legislation. We are now seeing the effects of this legislation that seem to have caught most persons off guard. So a lot of persons did not see the economy turning around this quickly and this robustly until the very last minute. So what happened then, the number of permits we would normally process in, let's say, a 3-month to 4-month time frame, we were up against to deal with in 1 month. And the economy remains very robust to where we haven't had a chance to properly get this thing handled right. But we haven't given up on it. I spoke to the FS a few days ago about the online portal, which they are the ones responsible for making happen. It is going to happen sooner rather than later.
All right, I want to go back to the programs, and then we're going to get to the online portal as well, because we do have some questions. But speaking to your aim and your desire of making sure that locals are essentially taking up most of the key positions, what currently do you have in place, program-wise, within labor? What's the structure
Yes. Well,
to really make sure that that happens?
what we've done recently is we've launched what is called the Labor and Education Connect. It's where the two ministries have gotten together to look at the skills gaps in the market and to offer programs up at the college to help fill those gaps there. However, filling a skills gap is not an overnight thing. It may take several months to several years to do. But we had to start somewhere, recognizing that as we try to, what I have said, localize the workforce. It's not an overnight fix, but we must do all we can to make sure the local workforce, the local population are given first preferences and given every single opportunity to participate in the economy from the lowest to the highest level, all levels of the economy. We must do the same for our people.
And has that program actually been launched as yet?
Yeah, the program was launched, I think, in December of last year.
Okay.
It's been headed by Dr. Carl Dawson, who's done an excellent job so far.
Thank you for that.
The pandemic has kind of created a situation where we can't do things the way we would like to because we're still in transition into the new regular. But I want to see it more visible. I've spoken to the minister about my concerns. I don't think it's visible enough, and people aren't understanding what we are doing, what our aims are, what our methodologies are towards this goal of ensuring that we have a trained local population to participate in all levels of our economy.
All right, I do hear you. On that matter of wanting key locals to take up positions, can you agree, Honorable Minister, that there are many roles spanning across a variety of industries, for example, the hospitality and construction industries that many locals aren't interested in, they don't want the jobs? What happens when locals don't wish to take up some roles in the workforce?
And that's a real challenge. And I'll give you a very live example. I saw the news very recently about the managing director at the Airports Authority. I think it's a Trinidad national, which totally went against what me as a Labour Minister would like to see. So I called him. I said, couldn't you also find a local for this job? He said, Minister, we had 20 applicants and not a single one came from your local population.
And why is that?
That is very frustrating and disturbing to me.
Why is that?
Maybe they don't feel they will get the job. Maybe they don't feel they'll get the support. It's a myriad of reasons why persons may not want to do a certain job. Okay, besides the fact of just simply not wanting to do it.
I want to take that very good example that you made. Of course, recently there was a new appointment at the BVI Airports Authority. So yes, we're covering and we're really talking about someone taking up the helm of that position. And
yes,
in your quest, you said they said that all the applicants that they got, none of them were from here. But let's look at it
that was
holistically,
my understanding.
Right? Let's look at it that even more in depth. Succession planning, even within our key departments, are there no locals who have been working within the industry who would have been privy and trained to possibly take up the helm of that organization and other departments like it, statutory or government?
This is something all governments have tried to do with varying levels of success. And I think it's probably industry specific to the levels of success that we've seen. But again, persons tend to do what's inspected, not what is expected. So one of the things we have to do with the labor and workforce team is to be able to carry out more inspections of companies to make sure these kinds of programs are put in place. Succession planning. It's in the labor code, but who inspects to see that it's done? And I would almost guarantee you, hardly anybody, if anybody at all.
Okay.
But I'm going to take it upon myself, as soon as we get things settled with labor, that we get a specific inspection team, not only to go out and ensure that persons are doing succession training, but that those persons are given every support to succeed. We have to be a little more proactive with such things and not simply campaign talk or whatever talk and rhetoric. These things we must do with strategy, intention, and determination. We have to do it. We have no choice. We cannot simply sit back and hope that persons will do certain things. We have to ensure and incentivize and provide support to our people to be able to move from where they are to the other level. We simply have to.
All right. Now, is there currently, Honorable Minister, a unit in the Department of Labor and Workforce Development primarily responsible for employing locals? Do you think, if there is a unit, do you think that this unit is adequately staffed and has the necessary tools so far been successful?
Well, I would say yes. At Labor, there is a database where locals are asked, or any unemployed person are asked to register your qualification, register your interest, whatever. And we do try our best. Whenever jobs are advertised, we look to that database and see if there is a match. That's why sometimes you hear persons complain of their work permits being delayed. Sometimes that delay is due to us looking at the database and realizing, hi, we have some locals in the database who qualify for this job. Now, as to why it doesn't happen sometimes that the local who's qualified doesn't get a job, that's a whole other discussion that we'll probably get to later on in the show. Because persons in the labor market, through studying this problem for the last 3 years, I began to understand why certain problems do exist. And one of the reasons I've found in a general sense is the business owners have different standards for hiring than what we as government look for. We primarily look for qualifications of persons to do a job. What I've discovered is that some businesses, qualification isn't the only thing they look at. And I want to say this here now. They seem to look at also 2 other things that are important to them. One, how much abuse can this employee that I'm trying to hire willing to take? Meaning, how low can I pay them? How often can I pay them late? Can I deny them vacation? Can I not pay the NHI and Social Security and not end up in trouble? And on I can go. And the second thing is one is how little they can pay, and the other is how much abuse they can take. And it may sound harsh, but that's the reality I have discovered in looking at certain issues in the workplace.
So Honorable Minister, if I'm understanding correctly, holistically, when you look at the employment situation, you're saying that while the government of the Virgin Islands, through the Labor and Workforce Development Agency, is looking for more qualifications, you're saying that a number of businesses or business owners in the territory seek candidates based on how they could pay them, how little they can pay them, and how much abuse they can give them. Now, with that being,
it is sad, but that is the reality I have discovered.
Now, with that being said, what is in place in the Labor Department to protect not only these instances from happening, but really protecting the workforce in the Virgin Islands, who you're alluding to being quite mistreated?
Yeah, what they have been doing is having employers and employee seminars, informing the employer and employees of their rights as employees, as workers in this territory.
Do you think those seminars are successful?
It's hard to measure. We're not there yet with full capacity to where we can measure every single thing that needs to be measured. But I hope at some point in time, because I met some folks one time, and we had a very frank discussion, but they told me I cannot use any of the information from that meeting to do anything with. They wanted me to be aware. Now it's kind of odd. Why are you telling me of all the abuse that you are having in a workplace, and at the same time expecting me not to address it? It's very hard. If you're telling me the employer pays you below minimum wage, that's illegal. It's against the law to do that. If you're telling me the employer is holding your passport, you can't do that. And if you're telling me the employer is not paying NHI and you are aware of this, and I want to come back to those 2 things then. The NHI and Social Security payments. These things are incredibly important to the employees. Because if anything happens to you, you are not covered by anything. If you're hurt on a job and you're hospitalized and you have no coverage, it shouldn't happen, because then at the end, you come to government for pay. Your salary and your deductions supposed to cover your NHI and Social Security. I had some cases recently where a gentleman died. And in fact, more than one. And then the family realized, he didn't pay a single penny in the Social Security. Now all the burial expenses is on the family. And who the families come to? The representatives. That's why it's so important that the employees should ensure that the employers are paying into NHI and Social Security. We're going to do from all in what we have to do. But I'm asking employees not to take this kind of abuse like that and just sit down. You have to make a complaint. I'm working for so-and-so, and I know for a fact they are not paying Social Security.
Honorable
Don't wait
Minister,
until 4, 5, 6, 10 years go by and you realize, I am not covered.
I want to put a pin there, and I thank you so much for your honesty. Here's the problem from the ground, as a resident perspective, for someone who really spends a lot of time on the floor. You're talking about essentially persons who are nervous and scared to come forward and to share their concerns as it pertains to labor. But the simple and honest truth about that, the Honorable Minister, is that they have no protection. And when I say they have no protection, they're made to feel as they have no protection, because in the cases when they do report, this has been going on for decades, probably before I was even born, where businesses are not paying NHI, they're not paying Social Security, persons go to the hospital and experience difficulties, and they're made to, what are we doing about it? So that's our first problem, because if we know these aspects and these situations are happening, they have been going on for decades, where does it stop, and who does it stop with? Who's responsible for essentially governing and protecting these employers?
Yeah, the government does have a role to play, and also the employees and the businesses, to ensure these things happen. Now, we are doing some reforms at NHI to help to address some of these issues here. The key word you used a while ago, they have been going on for a very long time. When things get so enshrined into the workplace, there's no overnight fix for some of these challenges we have here.
Okay.
And the challenges are many. I've only pointed out these two here because they're the one freshest to my mind. But what you said there is so key. People tend to feel powerless in terms of representation for issues such as these here. I remember, it must have been last year, there were a group of workers from a particular country, about 8 or 10 of them, and the employer was sending those persons back home with no kind of compensation, no vacation pay, no overtime pay, and no severance pay. They happened to meet a friend who knew me, and he called me. I said, get all of them together. I want to hear the case. And they all came. I sat down with them. I heard the case. I called the employer and said, everything I've heard here is illegal, but you have to verify that what they're telling me is true. The company did own up to it. And when the company finished paying, they had paid over $80,000 to these persons, this group of persons. Had I not gotten involved then, they would have gone home and left that money with the company.
I trust, Honorable Minister, that we're able in the future to essentially handle more cases like that and effectively
persons need to feel empowered to file complaints with the Labor Department that I'm being ill-treated in my situation.
All right.
I'm being abused in my situation.
I want to segue to the complement of staff within the Labor Department. It is no secret. You have mentioned that staffing is an issue. I want to talk about any analysis. I want you to make an analysis for me based on the situation. Why are we understaffed within the labor and workforce development, and what is being done to essentially fill these positions so that we can better serve the public?
Yes, you would have seen the 2020 report. I don't think many persons realize the report they saw in the press recently was from 2020. But in that report, it did say that they were short-staffed. And this is true of practically every single government department.
True.
I think the only government department not understaffed may be the governor's office. If there are two, it's certainly one of them. We are trying to get at least 4 positions in this new budget here. Hopefully, we'll get it. When you have a department so essential as labor, whenever it's understaffed, it does have effects, negative effects in terms of data gathering, data analysis, and so forth. We are not where we need to be, but we are on our way there to making sure we have adequate persons on the ground to do the data analysis, to understand trends, and again, to be able to go out in the field and do inspections, to do just unannounced casual visits. Because one of the things that I try to impress upon all businesses, and I must commend 284 for this, because I said years ago, we are going to try to localize the workforce as much as possible. So when I go into a business, I often ask them to show me the ratio of belongers to work permit holders. And 284 has been a leading organization for the last few years in this regard. But I'm seeing, when persons know we're going to come to look at this here, I'm seeing a change, where persons are actively trying to train and recruit our local persons. But it needs to be on a wider scale. Okay. Because there are a lot of things happening in the workforce that's been brought to my attention that I frankly don't like. For example, persons know I prefer a local in a job. So they may go and advertise a job. A local apply for it at $40,000. The local will say, well, I can't do this job. I have a master's degree for $40,000. They don't get a job. but then you hire someone on a work permit and you pay them $70,000. Well, if you'd offered that local that same $70,000, he would be in a job.
I understand.
And locals are aware of these things. But again, we don't have our inspections to where we need to be to catch these things early enough. I spend a lot of time on the ground going around, so I do hear certain things, and I would call the businesses, well, what is this? This is something that it's against the policy of the government because we are trying to localize your workforce. And I even would go to explain to them, and they know why it is better for them, it's more sustainable to have local staff versus work permit holders in some instances.
On the issue of staffing, I have to go back to that. Recently, the leader of the opposition, one of your colleagues, the Honorable Marlon A. Penn, alluded to the fact that perhaps there should be some switch within persons within the government system, meaning, for example, you are short-staffed within labor and workforce and immigration as well. Why not shift civil servants? Why not do a reshuffling so that your department, one of the key areas, could be strengthened? Is this a possibility?
Yes, it is something we are looking at. But it's not as simple as it may look. It's not like, okay, I need 2 workers today, can you send me 2 workers? Because there are licensing issues involved with the use of the systems that we have.
Understood.
But it is something we had a meeting in the discussion with the governor on this, I think just yesterday or the day before, on this very issue, the mobility of staff from one department to the other. Because like now where labor is in very high demand, why can't we take 4 officers from, let's say, education, or for lack of a reference, and put them in labor for a month or 2 months until we get the backlog done, or some other department. We shift them there, get the matter under control, and then shift them back to where they came from afterwards. It is something we are seriously looking at. Again, it's been spoken about for many, many years, but we have to move from the rhetoric into action.
I agree with you. We have to get to the point where it's, as the OP would say, not all fraud and no mobby. We need some mobby. We need some substance.
Exactly.
We need some mobby. You alluded to the budget. In the recent 2022 budget estimate, we would have seen that it is projected that 650 job applications would register in 2022, and then a projected steady decline in 2023 and 2024. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to this analysis, considering that the goal essentially is to ensure that locals are hired? How did we come to these figures?
I think it's just that. As we try to localize the workforce and do more and more programs, we know they had like the solar program up at the college last year. The marine program is ongoing. As we do more and more to bring more locals, to upskill the local persons and to make them more marketable, we expect the demand for outside labor would steadily and slowly decline.
Okay, so
that will be an effect of that. So maybe just looking forward to the effectiveness of the programs towards making locals more marketable to participate in the local market.
So in this same vein, we would have seen in 2021 a revised work permit being processed at 8,000 in 2021, and then a proposed increase in of 2,000 applications for 2022. I need some help. Make it make sense for us. Can you explain how this analysis meets the mandate of hiring locals when we see a proposed decrease in job applications but an increase in work permits?
That came from the budget?
No, these are statistics. These are statistics that were recently revised and shared within the Labor Department.
So you say
in 2021,
lower job demands but higher work applications?
So in 2021, a revised work permit being processed at 8,000 in 2021. That's what the recent statistics show. And then a proposed increase in 2,000 applications for 2022. So we're looking at 2021, 8,000, 2022 moving up to 2,000. Can you explain how this analysis really meets the mandate of hiring locals? How are we able to do this in the proposed decrease in job applications? You're not getting as many job applications, but you're seeing an increase in work permits.
Again, it's one of those phenomena where a lot of locals are not taking up the job I mentioned earlier, are not taking up job opportunities. Where, look at the airport managing director, we had 20 applicants, and sadly not one was local. I use that one example. I'm sure there are many other examples. And then there's a situation of frustrating locals with jobs. Sometimes when you hire people and you frustrate them to where they leave, and you broke their hope, then they're going to stop applying. They're simply going to stop applying. And that's why I said in the house when I sat last time, all of us must inspire hope in our people. or people should not get in a hopeless situation where they feel in their own country they can't participate in the economy, because it's going to lead to the potential to lead to nasty things down the road.
All right.
And when persons stop feeling that they can make a living in their own country, it's a dangerous thing.
Do you feel that is the case presently, Honorable Minister? Do you feel like locals feel they can't make a living in their own country?
Oh, I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Because persons, of course, will come to us and say, can you help me get a job? And you tell them, well, you know, there's a hiring freeze, we want to do an internal thing. And I said, well, what do I expect them to do? I can't get a job in the private sector. I can't get a job in the government. How am I to make a living? We hear it all the time.
Okay. According to the budget estimate, and I have to go over the figures again, but according to a budget estimate and other official documents presented, it should take about 30 days to process a new work permit. Now, we have heard, and I'm sure you've heard the complaints as well,
yes,
from employers that permits have been in since August of 2021 and still not processed. Why do you suppose, or what is causing this remarkable delay? I know we talked about staff shortages, but how is it possible for a work permit to take this long?
And don't forget also, apart from staff shortages, we're also in the age of COVID. And sometimes persons are not able to come to the office to work. I cannot say all the reasons why. There's no one reason why a permit may be delayed. One of the reasons, however, would be the number of employees that company is trying to hire at the same time. And remember, we also have to do our due diligence to look in our database and to see if there are any locals in there who are qualified. And then there's a negotiating period. Because sometimes you may send 5 locals for a position and they're interviewed one at a time. That may take a period of time. And if the person rejects all of them, we may find a 6th person. This can take time. That's one of the reasons. The other reason may be the efficiency of the system. And that's why we're trying to get the online system better fine-tuned, get the online payments going, so we can process work permits at a faster rate without disenfranchising our local population. It's so important that we always keep sight of that local population. You see, the economy is very robust now, and all persons are seeing is the opportunity to make some money. For some companies, they haven't really made money since 2017, since the hurricanes. Finally, they had a chance to make some money. And their only objective is to bring on whoever they can get to get this job done so their business can be successful. As a legislator, we have to look beyond that immediate need, because we can't solve one problem here and create a bigger problem down the road.
So, Honorable Minister,
we saturate the economy right now with a bunch of work permit holders, a bunch of them. And then the economy falls off because we find out in June there's a Category 5 hurricane coming, God forbid. What do we then do with all these persons who all of a sudden now out of work?
So I understand your concern, and I understand wholeheartedly what
so
you're
we try
sharing
to find a
about
balance.
Filling an immediate gap. But what do you say? And you talked about it being a little bit premature in a sense to just want immediate gratification for the business owners, but looking long term. But I want to ask you this in all honesty: what should business owners be trying to do when they've been closed for so long? Let's take the restaurant owner, the hotel owner in Crane Garden Bay or Carrot Bay, who just like we mentioned, have been closed for all this time.
Right.
And now that we're seeing some influx of business in our country, they are still without, they cannot. They're looking for candidates, they're exhausting, and persons are not able to fill these positions. What do you say to the businessman, the small, the mom and pop restaurant that can't make any money because they can't find people to hire?
Oh, we try our best to facilitate. I'm mindful of this, because I live in the 9th district where we are all tourism. We haven't had much tourism for a while. So persons now see the opportunity. We try our best to work with them. It's trying to find that balance between flooding the market with the work permits versus disenfranchising the local economy. Because either which way is going to be a negative thing down the road if the balance isn't right. Now, what exactly that balance is, I do not know.
Okay.
We try our best to accommodate businesses trying to survive. We have to do that, because these same businesses are often owned by locals. So you have locals who will bring in expats, then their season drops off. These same businesses come back to you and ask you, well, can you please send these persons back with the cover because I can no longer sustain them.
I understand.
So it's kind of trying to find that balance. Then I'm asking businesses to work with us the best you can. We have to get, again, this is why it's so important that we have a trained local population to work with some of these jobs here for this very reason. So when the season slack off, they can maybe easily go into another area of work or move to another business or do something on their own.
I understand.
So again, it's really trying to find a balance for a sustainable BVI is what the key is.
I have to ask you.
It's a complex situation. It's not easy. It's not easy. A gentleman gave me a very raw example. He said, you know, my friend has a strip club, but you all don't want me to hire the people for the strip club. When they start to rape the young girls, what are you going to do then?
Interesting.
So, and also, these are the complex interplays between these different things in the community that we have to always be mindful of, that we're not solving a problem while creating an even bigger problem down the road.
Interesting example, but we thank you for that.
Well, I thought so too. But
I have to ask you though, at the rate that permits are being processed, are you at all concerned that this is going to have, what effect really do you think it's going to have on our economy when our work permits are taking so long for whatever reason? What are the implications of this?
Ron, it has many implications. I've had many businesses not only threaten the department, but spoke to me and said, if I don't get my work permit, I will shut my business down. So one of the first things you're faced with, if business is shut down, it affects a lot of things. When we had the influx of work permits, we tried to prioritize which ones we will do first. And then we realized something. The BVI economy is so integrated, every single part must move together. If you give all the work permits to let's say, the sailing community, and don't give it to the provisionals, when the yachts are going sailing, they're going sailing without food. And if you don't do with the wholesale to make sure they can sell whatever they're selling to the taxi drivers, then there's a problem. So the whole economy is so interactive that everything must move at the same time. Hence the pressure you see out there to get all permits out at the same time. It's a challenge because the whole system must function for it to thrive. It's a real balancing act, and it's a real complex problem to grapple with every day, prioritizing. So if you tell the hotel, listen, I can't give you a chef because I have a local chef, and then there's a whole refusal for that chef, but then they get the chef as opposed to somebody else. Then they realize, I have a chef, but the supplier can't bring me no food. Or the taxi guy can't bring the people to the hotel. So it's getting everything moving at the same time, hence the challenge we are having. But I must commend the teams, because the team, despite all the challenges, are trying their very best to get the permits out in as timely a manner as possible. I've a lot of persons who have been waiting a very long time to contact me directly. And I must say with a lot of success. They were able to address a lot of the concerns persons have had. It shouldn't come to that, but unfortunately, because of the way the economy is moving, I had no other choice but to intervene and help push certain things forward who've been waiting for a very long time.
Understood.
Because again, you have that restaurant waiting that chef for 4 months. If they don't get that chef, then the food suppliers can't sell their food, the hotel guests can't go anywhere, the taxi guys can't get a tour, and then the whole system crashes.
Indeed. Honorable Minister, there is no doubt one of the key words we've heard today have been challenges, and more challenges. Yes. But I do continue to wish you and your team the very best as we try to maneuver through these challenges. I think holistically for the betterment and the continued economic support of our business community, labor and workforce development here in the territory, something needs to be done. But I do wish you the very best in executing your duties. And I do also thank you for your honesty in not having all of the answers, but say you're working through it. I do think that honesty is warranted.
And we try our best to address all the issues that are brought before us. And like we said in the very beginning, these aren't necessarily new issues, but in the age of COVID, where things have been so bad for so long, coming on the heels of the hurricanes, we have to do all that we can do. And I've committed myself to addressing the issues head on. If I don't know something, I want to tell you I don't know. But I'm committed to trying to find solutions. I've dedicated myself to try to find solutions to these many long-standing problems, to make the whole economy function the best we can, to keep the BVI an attractive place to work, live, visit, and invest.
Absolutely.
It's a balancing act.
You are not only responsible for labor and immigration and workforce development, you are also natural resources. Of course, recently the Salt Island Land Advisory Committee was formed. That is, of course, well received by the descendants of Salt Island. The committee is made up of descendants of Salt Island, which is absolutely commendable. What are the plans to maybe do something similar so that the residents of Anegada, they too get what they deserve as it pertains to land allocation? The
Anegada committee has been formed. We've been working with them very, very closely. We have made significant progress. Whereas Salt Island was a 30-year exercise, because they've been trying to do this for the last, since 1995 or 98, so like 30 years they've been trying to get this thing formed. It's finally here, because I firmly believe in empowerment of the people who sent us here. And one of the most powerful ways to empower somebody is to give them a stake in owning a piece of the rock in their own country. Anegada is a 136-year-old problem. But I have every confidence in the committee, working with the government, that we're going to get this sorted out so we can get titles to persons. Lands in persons' hands is one of my driving forces over the next few months.
All right, Honorable Minister, Honorable Vincent Wheatley, thank you so much for your time and coming to do your best to answer some of the concerns and questions as it pertains to labor and immigration. Viewers, that was the Honorable Minister of Labor and Immigration, Natural Resources, as well, of course, and 9th District Representative, the Honorable Vincent Wheatley. Up next, stay tuned for interview, which I'm conducting with the Honorable 2nd District Representative, the Honorable Melvin Mitch Turnbull. He is also bringing to the forefront some of his concerns as it pertains to his district. I want to thank you guys so much for sticking with us through day and, of course, throughout the week for your content. It's always a pleasure. I'm Ron Grant. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.